Hi everybody, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Michael. You're watching another episode of Star Wars News and Views, and today we're talking about the Rogue One prequel.
Yeah.
Rogue One is a prequel to A New Hope, and this is a prequel to the prequel that's set during the time of the prequels.
Yes.
There we go. It's like a prequel to the cube.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's nested.
Okay, so from author James Luceno, who's done Tarkin recently, which is canon, and before that he did Darth Plagueis and some other things. He's actually a really good author. This is a novel, by the way, if I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
So this is a novel that's coming out on November 15th. It's a prequel to Rogue One, and it's called Catalyst.
Yep.
By James Luceno. And this is very, very interesting because this was just announced. They sort of told us a synopsis for it, and this actually changes, or not changes, but it fills in the Rogue One backstory quite a bit.
And it seems like they have to kind of work their way into, attaching part of this to the movie such that you don't have to read the novel first, but it's going to give a lot of context to it, I feel.
Yeah, and like speaking of like new canon, so a lot of the old Clone Wars stuff is no longer canon. Well, this is now sort of rebuilding that from the ground up because it has to do with the formation of the Death Star.
Yeah.
So this is set during the Clone Wars, so Republic versus Separatists, right? That's how far back this goes. And Jyn Erso's father, Galen or Galen?
Galen, I think.
Galen? I've been calling him Galen.
Okay, I think it's Galen. But
okay, let's say he's Galen. Yeah. And his wife, Lyra, or Lyra? Lyra?
Galen and Lyra. Just use those.
Anyway, though. So Galen is doing this energy research, right?
Chancellor Palpatine wants to make the Death Star. He takes Orson Krennic as his lead on the project
to be the lead guy for high energy weaponry.
So then Orson Krennic has to find someone to help him do it because he's kind of just like a director and doesn't really know too much about the nitty gritty of the research. So then he decides to get Galen Erso. Orson Krennic saves Galen, Jyn, and Lyra from a group of separatist kidnappers. And because of that, Galen is kind of indebted to Orson Krennic. And using that, Orson Krennic decides to sort of ask him for help with this guy's Death Star project, which he disguises sort of as a energy research that's going to be used altruistically. So I'm kind of thinking that he's going to be describing it sort of as like a energy source for, any sort of planet that would need it. And he decides to disguise it that way. So Galen and his family at first are on board with this, and they thinks that it's going to be just a scientific research, to help out.
You got every resource from the Republic going.
Yeah, and of course this is back before there was the Empire, so no one really knew exactly what was going on. And he also describes it as a way to sort of beat their enemies into coming up with this sort of idea, so that it's sort of like, in some sense, the atomic bomb, where two sides are trying to build it sooner than the other one.
Yeah.
So with that, he describes it to him, and I think the plot of the book is going to be sort of Galen and his family discovering what this device is going to be and slowly try to get out of the grasp of Orson Krennic, who's going to be sort of, I guess, becoming more and more of an antagonist as the book goes on, trying to keep them trying to keep Galen working on the Death Star.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, that's a really intriguing plot.
Yeah.
And, that also sets up a real personal stakes in Rogue One because, I never really thought about that, though. It seems like she probably has met Orson Krennic when she was a kid. So in Rogue One, when she does she come face to face with him? And
he's kind of
he destroyed her family in some ways.
He's kind of like her kidnapper in some sense, right? From and she becomes an orphan at one point, right? So or not necessarily, maybe
not literally, but
but she gets orphaned because her parents are gone and she has to live on her own, and it's going to be his fault, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to sort of work that into the movie somehow so that we know that, because it's going to be
well, we already know that there's going to be flashbacks involving Lyra and Galen.
Yeah, so I think they might sort of do a little quick recap of this novel, not maybe just the ending of it, sort of the climax of it, but sort of a little recap of all this information in the movie itself. But we're going to get it fully fleshed out in this novel.
It could also be maybe there's scenes where she's having dreams, and it's sort of you just get it in bits and pieces of her flashing back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, talking about how everything is canon now, they're really tying these things together pretty tightly.
Yeah.
And it also makes me wonder, though, I really think the mother character is going to die in the flashbacks in Rogue One, or maybe in this book. And I think maybe Galen will survive, and maybe this whole time he's been sort of held captive on the Death Star, because we're talking about Mon Mothma says in one of the trailers that like we intercepted a transmission and like maybe your father was involved in this, so like, maybe the whole time he's been on the Death Star,
trapped, and like Orson Krennic is keeping him there. Maybe even says that his family was killed or something like that, so or that he will to keep him working on this. Yeah.
So I mean, this is really tying everything together pretty well, actually.
Also, the actress playing Lyra looks a lot younger, especially than Mads Mikkelsen. So I think it's going to be kind of like, there's a good chance that they can make him look younger for a flashback, or not even have her father at all in the flashback, and just have her mother, and he's going to be still alive, I think. Just
like in present day within the movie, because he's older, right? He's like in his 40s or 50s, right?
Exactly. So I think we will see him still in this movie, but her mother probably just in the flashbacks. And
Valine Kane, who plays the mother, is younger than Felicity Jones.
Yeah. So it'll just be through flashbacks of her, I think, and we're going to get more of her character in this novel itself, but probably not too much in the movie. Yeah.
And what's interesting, just as a final tidbit, this is in the new canon, and this is straight up prequel era. Like Rebels is kind of in between.
Yeah.
And I know there's Clone Wars as canon, but that was kind of mostly made before the new canon officially started. They're just kind of bringing that in. Yeah. But now that they know that they're working in a new canon, this is like, okay, prequel era.
I think it's because they want to set the movie in the time that they liked, which is right before the original trilogy. But then to have a prequel to that, they have to go back to the prequel.
To the actual prequel. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I know there's a lot of layers here and a lot of things to discuss. So be free to leave your thoughts in the comments section. Anything we missed, any points that we maybe should have brought up that you guys, I mean, there's a lot of speculation to go
for
on
sure.
here.
And also, this is just the synopsis, so we don't even know any part of the plot.
And also, James Luceno is a really good author. I really like his stuff. They usually trust him with really important subject matter that sort of changes the history.
Which this will. Yeah. It's going to set up the movie itself.
So right? I guess he's been, tried, tested, and true, and if they're leaving it to him.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next episode.